We need to talk about February 7th, 2009. On that day, a wave of unbelievable heat and wind swept across Victoria, Australia. And what happened next wasn't just a bushfire. It was a firestorm, a true mega-fire, on a scale so catastrophic it would be forever burned into the nation's memory as Black Saturday. Those were the words of Australia's Deputy Prime Minister at the time, Julia Gillard, and it really captured the shock the entire country felt. You see, this wasn't just another natural disaster. It was a national trauma, a moment that would fundamentally change Australia's entire relationship with fire.
And the cost, well, measured in human lives, it was just staggering. 173 people died. It's still the highest loss of life from a bushfire in Australia's recorded history.
So, in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how a tragedy like this could even happen. We'll look at the anatomy of the firestorm itself, try to grasp its devastating human cost, unpack the critical lessons learned from the ashes, and then explore why the threat of another Black Saturday is, frankly, more urgent today than ever before.
Okay, so let's go back to the day itself. Saturday, February 7th. You know, the forecasters, they knew it was going to be bad. They had no way of predicting the absolute scale of the inferno that was about to be unleashed.
The thing you have to understand is this wasn't one single fire. It was a statewide crisis, all erupting at once. We're talking about as many as 400 separate fires, sparked by everything from fallen power lines to arson, just exploding across a landscape that was primed and ready to burn.
So the big question is, how did it get so bad so fast? Well, Black Saturday wasn't some random accident. It was the result of a terrifying, and I mean perfect, combination of weather conditions. It created a situation that fire chiefs later called completely uncharted territory.
Think of it like a recipe for absolute disaster. There were three key ingredients. First, you had a brutal, record-breaking heat wave that had been baking the state for weeks. Second, you had ferocious, hurricane-forced winds to fan the flames. And third, the entire landscape was critically dry. I mean, humidity levels dropped to as low as 2%. The forests were like a giant powder keg, just waiting for a spark.
This timeline really shows you the terrifying speed of it all. Just before noon, a spark. By 3 p.m., Melbourne hits its hottest temperature ever recorded. But look, the real game changer. The moment everything went from horrible to apocalyptic was at 5:30 p.m. A sudden, violent wind change turned these long, narrow firefronts into massive, wide walls of flame, trapping entire towns. Less than an hour and a half later, the town of Marysville was facing an absolute inferno.
The aftermath, I mean, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. The fires left this deep scar, not just on the landscape, but on the people of Victoria, a scar that's still there today. And the numbers, they really tell a story of just unthinkable loss.
Over 450,000 hectares were just incinerated. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that is an area more than 5 times the size of Singapore. Just gone. Over 2,000 homes were just turned to ash. That left more than 7,500 people without a home, displaced in an instant.
And the damage just kept spreading. The agricultural toll was also immense. Beyond the homes and the forests, we're talking about thousands upon thousands of farm animals lost, and right along with them, the livelihoods of countless rural families.
But this breakdown reveals what is probably the most tragic reality of Black Saturday. 113 people, that's nearly 2/3 of all the victims, died inside their own houses, the very places they thought would be the safest. It was this absolutely grim statistic that would force a total, complete rethink of bushfire safety in Australia. So, in the wake of a disaster of this magnitude, the entire nation was demanding answers. The goal was simple, but it was also monumental. Do whatever it takes to make sure this can never, ever happen again.
The main way they did this was through something called the 2009 Victorian Bushfires Royal Commission. You can think of it as a massive deep dive investigation. It scrutinized every single aspect of the crisis, from fire management and emergency warnings to building codes and even the official stay or go policy for residents.
And what the commission found led to huge, sweeping reforms. The old stay or go policy was totally overhauled because, well, the firestorm moved so fast and was so intense that staying to defend your home basically became a death sentence for many. They brought in brand new building codes. Warning systems were modernized. That's when we started getting emergency SMS alerts. And a much clearer, more urgent fire danger rating system was rolled out across the whole country.
But here's the crucial point. While the lessons from 2009 were absolutely vital, the underlying risk, well, it hasn't gone away. In fact, it's getting worse. The very same conditions that created Black Saturday are actually becoming more and more frequent.
And we don't have to look into some distant future to see this in action. Just imagine a severe heat wave in January of 2026. Picture it, gripping the exact same parts of the country, mirroring the conditions of 2009. That's a scenario that would put communities on the highest possible alert and push our fire services to their absolute limit.
And here's why that risk is growing. Climate science can now actually calculate the direct impact our own activities are having on extreme weather. For a heat wave, like the one in our 2026 scenario, analysis could show that climate change added a really significant 1.6 degrees Celsius to the peak temperatures. This isn't a future problem. The engine for it is already running.
And just look at this. Look at how the frequency has changed. The kind of extreme heat that led to Black Saturday, that used to be considered a 1 in 25-year event. According to the very latest analysis, it's now a 1 in 5-year event. What was once a generational catastrophe is becoming a regular summer threat.
As expert Ben Clark puts it, this is simply the new reality. We are living in an era where the conditions for a megafire are no longer a rare anomaly, but a recurring feature of the Australian summer.
So the legacy of Black Saturday isn't just one of terrible loss. It's an urgent warning. It showed us the terrifying potential of fire in a hotter, drier world. And it leaves all of us with the critical question we now have to confront. As this extreme fire weather becomes the new norm, how do we adapt, not just to live, but to survive?